In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, amen. Mary, Mother of Captives, your Son came to proclaim liberty. Soften our captive hearts, hardened by distrust and judgment. Give us grace to see the dignity of all the captives, the captors, the survivors, the families. By your example, teach us to be gentle. Show us how to be restorers of peace and wholeness. By your example, teach us the power of disruption of yes. Show us how to challenge injustice and apathy. By your example, teach us the gift of persistence, patience. Show us how to listen to the unheard, the guilty, the innocent, the forgotten. Mother of captives, inspire us, move us, be with us. Amen. And the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. My name is Deacon Billy Messenger. I'm the chaplain at Angola. I was assigned there in 2020. I was ordained to the diaconate in August of 2020, and I actually started that summer. Jay Jackson was, I'm sure a lot of y'all know Jay. He had been there, I think 5 years maybe. He replaced Father Bernie. He's been going to Angola for 20 plus years. But I've been there since. And, Jorge started doing this, and I think this is a great idea because this is something that we really didn't do before. But we're trying to grow the involvement in prison ministry. And I think this is a great way to do it, just for the different prisons to do presentations, to let y'all know the work that we do. And some of y'all, how many of y'all are new, have never done prison ministry? Okay, great. So this is what it's about, just trying to get new people involved in prison ministry. You know, he had that scripture passage from Matthew 25, the parable of the sheep and the goats. You know, I love that scripture passage because it fits perfectly with any ministry, right? It doesn't matter if it's prison or hospital or nursing home. It's about seeing Jesus Christ in those around us. You know, when I was hungry, you gave me to eat. When I was thirsty, you gave me to drink. When I was naked, I in prison, I was sick. Lord, when did we do this for you? For as often as you did it for the least of my brothers, you did it for me. So you know what I love about that scripture passage? Anything we do in the church, any service we provide, serving one another, you know, lots of times we have to be motivated because sometimes it's not easy to do it, you know, week after week or however often we do it. But if we can see Jesus in those who we're serving, that's what can motivate us. Because like I said, sometimes we struggle to do whatever involvement that we have in the church. So I love that scripture passage because it can motivate us to do some of the things that God calls us to do, right? I believe God has called me to this. I think all of y'all believe the same thing. And sometimes it's not easy. But that scripture passage is great because if we're feeling tired or we don't feel like doing it that particular day, think about Matthew 25. Okay, I made a list of some of the things that we have going on at Angola. So if any of you are interested, and we got a lot of people here, volunteers that go to Angola. If you want to talk to them about some of the work that we do, they can give you encouragement or just answer questions. But we have about 4,000 to 5,000 inmates at Angola. That number's dropped some in the last couple of years. They've been moving some of the guys out. But we have about 4,000 to 5,000. We have about 450 registered Catholics. And I tried to, I have guys at the different camps, some of our inmates that make rounds in the cell blocks. And I tell them when you you see somebody new, ask them what faith they are. So if they're Catholic and they're not registered, we can get them on our list because we want to keep track of all the Catholics for sure. Now, when we minister, we don't limit ourselves to Catholics. We go to every cell. You know, the volunteers usually go to the cells to bring communion to the Catholics. But like Zeke, myself, I know when Jay would come, we try to minister to all the guys, especially on the cell blocks, because these guys are locked up. You know, in Angola, and I think the other prisons are the same way. If you're not locked up, you have a certain amount of freedom. Okay, you can go to work every day. You can go to chapel, you know, when they have different services. So you have your spiritual needs met, but if you're locked up, you don't have that opportunity. So that's one of the ministries that we have where volunteers come from the outside. I have a list that I give them of all the different camps, TU, the hospital, where all the Catholics are located. They'll get this list, and then they'll split up. Now it's better because we can have 10 or 15 that will come. Before it was limited to 5, but they can go make rounds, visit the guys in the cell blocks, bring communion, and then just have conversation, because that's so important. You know, so many of the guys I've talked to, and a lot of volunteers know that what they appreciate the most, especially the ones in the cell block, because they don't have any kind of a social life. They're stuck in a cell 23 hours a day. So when a free person, that's what they call us, when a free person visits, they love it because they can have conversation with somebody else besides an inmate. Or if you're in the cell block, they'll have a conversation with a guy 4 or 5 cells down, so they can't even see who they're talking to. So it's an important part of the ministry that we do. Our mass, we have a mass. Father Brad Doyle comes on Tuesdays, and he does different masses at different parts of the prison. This Tuesday coming, the 4th Tuesday, he's going to go to death row, and he'll do a mass there for the guys. Hear confessions if they want to. And then also the 1st and 3rd Sundays have a retired priest, Father Fred Cameron. He's great. He's a retired Jesuit. He's in residence in Scotlandville, Immaculate Conception. And he called me, I think it's been close to 2 years ago. And he asked me if he could volunteer his services. I said, man, that would be great. Because all we had was masses on Tuesdays. So he comes the 1st and 3rd Sundays and does masses. So the guys have extra masses between those 2 priests. And of course they do confessions. But that's our mass schedule. And then we have communion services the 2nd and 4th Sunday. Jay comes on the 4th Sunday and does communion services. And I've been doing the 2nd. Zeke's been back, so Zeke can do communion services. So we're covered as far as masses and communion service. So it's great that they have these services available. So we have ministries for inmates. And our inmates, I think at all the prisons, the Catholic inmates are very involved in sharing their faith. They're very involved in participating in worship. We have, each camp has a Bible study, which is an ongoing thing. It's usually one night a week, and it's whatever night it is, it's the same night every week. And they'll have guys, they'll have Catholics, but they also have non-Catholics that participate. And usually it's inmate led. The guys will do this Bible study, and we have different materials that we provide them with. But this is an ongoing thing. So it's good because the inmates there are being fed spiritually within the Catholic community, but also outside of the Catholic community. We also have guys that will do regular, like weekly prayer services, like a rosary. They have Divine Mercy Chaplet that we do. We have Liturgy of the Hours. I have some guys that have a group of guys that approached me about a year ago wanting to do Liturgy of the Hours. I couldn't believe that they wanted to do this prayer. It's the prayer of the church. You know, all religious do it, priests, deacons, but there's a lot of lay people that participate in the Liturgy of the Hours. These guys at Angola wanted to do it. So we had some books I got for them. It was just a couple, and I said, if y'all stay with it, I'll get some more books. So that's what we did, and they've been doing it for over a year now. I purchased some books that are smaller, cheaper, but it has morning and evening prayer. Well, that's what they do. Every day, morning and evening prayer. There's a group of guys that get together and they do this. I'll go there, usually on weekdays, I go to a 6 a.m. Mass at St. Agnes and I get there at about 8. But on Tuesday mornings when Father Brad Doyle comes, I don't go to Mass at St. Agnes, I go to Mass there. So I'll get there for 6 and I'll do morning prayer with them. And it's great. They love it and they have been consistent. So it's just neat to see the faith of these guys and how they share their faith. And it's a part of their life. It motivates them and it's real. And any volunteer, I think any volunteer that goes and does prison ministry will agree with what I just said, that the faith they see in the people that are incarcerated, it's real. If they tell you they're going to pray for you, they're praying for you. My wife had surgery last week, and a number of guys would ask, I told them about it, and I was there. Her surgery was Tuesday, so I wasn't there Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I had to go. And first thing they asked me, how's your wife's surgery going? Tell her we're praying for her. You know, it's amazing to see the faith. That's what motivates me. And I think volunteers could say the same thing. And any of you that are interested in volunteering, you're going to get more than what you put into it. I can tell you that, because these guys will help build up your faith. That's how it works. That's how the body of Christ works, right? We all feed off of each other to build up the body of Christ. That's what prison ministry is about. It's about building up the body of Christ right here in the Diocese of Baton Rouge. And we can all participate in it. I think it's great. It's awesome. We have hospital ministry. We got some guys that go to the hospital in Angola each week. They will bring communion to the guys, the Catholics that are there. They visit. They'll visit every bed. And if there's anything that the guys need, they bring it to them. If anything spiritual, they'll bring it to them. But they'll sit there and talk with them, because the guys that are in the hospital, they're confined there. We got some guys that have been in there. They had a guy that he died a couple of years ago. He was from Cuba. He was in his 90s. And for the last, I don't know how many years, 5 years maybe, he was confined to a bed. He couldn't get out of the bed. But our guys would visit him. He died right there in that bed. But our guys would visit him, So this is the kind of brotherhood they have in these prisons. These guys take care of each other, and this is one of the things they do. We have a hospice team. They have hospice at Angola. At Angola, if you have a life sentence and you're dying, they're not going to let you go to a nursing home in Baton Rouge and die there, or even a hospice program in Baton Rouge and die there. You die there at Angola. So we have a hospice team, and it's inmate-led, okay? And these guys, they will stay with this. Once someone's moved into hospice, they stay with them 24/7. They take shifts, and they clean them up. If they mess on themselves, they clean them up. If they got to be bathed, they feed them. They pray with them. It's great, And again, what you see is real, because the guys that are on the hospice team, they're doing it from their heart. They're not doing it because they have to, because they don't have to. They're doing it because they want to. But it's a neat thing to see. We have confirmation retreats that we do. We just finally, for the first time, we had our first one back last Saturday. These were going on we had, I think, 24, 25 a year, Jay. So we were averaging like 2 a month. And it's confirmation groups from around the diocese that come to Angola. And we have a confirmation team. It's guys that are on the team. And the group, you take them on a tour of the prison. You bring them to the hospital. We have a hospice presentation where the guys do a presentation on the hospice program. We used to be able to go to the death chamber. We can't do that anymore. That's okay. Okay. Well, time is good? Or we need to wrap it up? Okay. And that's so that's some of the stuff that they have going on in Angola. I'm going to close with this. We have a drug program they started a couple of years ago. It was started by 2 guys that are Catholic. And Angola's got a drug problem. They get drugs in there, and a number of guys die because of overdosing on drugs. Well, these guys, out of the goodness of their heart, they wanted to help. They were both drug addicts, okay? They got off of drugs, and they wanted to help other guys in the prison get off of drugs. So they started a drug program, and they live with the guys. The guys are isolated. The ones in the drug program, they're isolated in another part of the prison, so no drugs can get in there. But these guys pray with them. If you go in the dorm where the guys are, the dorm's got, on the wall, it's got scripture verses. It's got quotes from different popes, from encyclicals. It's got quotes from Mother Teresa. These guys share their Catholic faith with these guys as they're helping them go through this program to get off of drugs. So they bring faith into it. And that's one of the things I've been most impressed with. They share their faith. Back in December, Bishop Duca came there, and we had 8 guys that were brought into the church. Well, I guarantee you 6 of these guys came into the church because of the guys in the drug dorm that were sharing their faith. They wanted to become Catholic, And it's just a testimony to what our guys, and I'm sure all the prisons are the same way. I'm not just saying this about Angola. I'm sure that all the prisons are the same way. But this is the kind of faith that you see in these prisons. And like I said, with the volunteers, I know they see it. And if you ever want to consider it, think about it, because it's awesome. It's an awesome ministry, and you are going to benefit from it also. You give your time, but what you get out of it, it's no comparison.
I'm Deacon Jeff Easley from St. John V&A, and I'm one of the chaplains at Hunt Correctional in St. Gabriel. And Miss Staci Polozola here is my co-chaplain, and Deacon Don Allison also works with us at Hunt, but he's not here this morning. His father-in-law passed away. First, I'd like to thank all of you for being here, and I can't really describe to you how important volunteers are in prison ministry and to the men or women in the prisons. Some of the guys that have been locked up before, they can tell you much better than I can how much it means to the men or women. Many of them have lost connections to their family and their friends. They've lost everything they ever owned. They are put away by the state, and their only friends become other inmates. So are the other inmates positive or negative towards them and toward how they develop in their spiritual life? Well, at Hunt, we do everything we can to give them an environment to where they can grow spiritually and just as good human beings and friends to each other and to us. The guys at Hunt really appreciate the volunteers. They don't expect volunteers to be theologians, to be even necessarily that much more spiritual than they are, but they do want them to be open, honest, sincere, and friendship. So friendship is the key more than any theology or particular event that you might be involved with. They're looking for connections to other people, to real people like us, not just other inmates and not just the administration and security forces. At Hunt, we have many events that we have on either a weekly, monthly, or annual basis. Each week we have a small group that meets on Mondays and Wednesdays for a Bible study. It's only maybe a half a dozen guys, and generally we do not have volunteers at that event. Each Tuesday we have a period set aside in the afternoons at 2 o'clock in the afternoon on Tuesday for either a spiritual related movie or some sort of educational opportunity, such as math classes, different things related to the spiritual life, or we might show a movie from Bishop Barron, The Chosen, different spiritual related movies. So we keep that chunk of time flexible to whatever's coming up on our agenda for that week or that period. Now, volunteers certainly are welcome to join in on that activity. On Wednesday evenings, we have what we call faith sharing. Most of you have probably been involved in a small Christian community before. Well, our faith sharing is much like a small Christian community. That ministry is run almost entirely by volunteers. Thursday is probably the only day that we don't have anything in particular going on during the week. We do have to schedule our events to use the chapel and the other facilities, because it's all shared facilities that we share with the Protestant faiths and the Muslims and any other faith organization. So we don't have unlimited resources as far as the means to present something. But Wednesday is a big night. The faith sharing is well attended. We usually have 30 or 40 guys even at faith sharing. Friday is probably our biggest day of all. We have, at 3 o'clock, we have OCIA, formerly known as RCIA. Last night we had a rite of welcome. We had 11 guys come in. Now we're talking here about a Catholic community that has 50 or 60 active members. They went out to their bunkmates in their dorms, out on the yard, at the gymnasium or the library. They made friends with other guys and invited them to come and see what the Catholic Church is all about. 11 guys came this year into inquiry in OCI. That's an amazing number. It's a bigger number than a lot of parishes have, who have hundreds of parishioners. At 5 o'clock each Friday, we have Mass, if we can find a priest, and most of the time we can. The priests in the diocese here do all that they can to try to support us. Father Tom here, after he retired, became one of our regulars at Hunt. So he comes, about once a month now at least. So and the men really, really appreciate having Mass. Many volunteers come to the Mass. And all they do is come a little early, go around, make friends with the guys, and then worship next to them. They're not there to preach to them. They're not there to give them theology lessons. They're there to make the human connection of the church, to become really their family. Most of them, the only family they have is each other and us. Staci here has been going to Hunt much longer than I have, and she has a rather unique story about it. I'll leave it to her to describe that if she wants to. But she's been a long time volunteer before she became co-chaplain. On a monthly basis, we have cell block visits that are organized mainly by Bernie over here. Once a month. They try to do twice a month, depending on if they have enough volunteers. Now that's probably the toughest thing that you can take on as a volunteer, because you go around into the worst parts of the prison. You're not in a nice air-conditioned chapel. You're in a cell block, and you go up to the bars and talk to the individuals and bring them communion, and some of it is really hard to do. It's a tough ministry. Staci and I go around to the cell blocks from time to time, and we have a couple of guys that are known as peer ministers who really become our scouts, if you will, and they tell us who needs attention that can't come to the chapel because of their lockdown. Sometimes someone needs to see a priest. They want to have their confession heard. or they could be in the skilled nursing unit and with a terminal disease and want the anointing of the sick. We've got a guy there now who's been really active Catholic, that we've had priests come a couple of times to anoint him. He's been given just really a matter of days left with us on this earth.
It's my turn.
Okay, go ahead. I'm going to get to you. And let me finish the overview, and then you can have your shot at it. Okay. So anyway, we have these monthly things like that. And we also have a couple of annual things. We have the Kolbe retreats now twice a year. We have a retreat that Staci put together called Mercy Fire once a year, and in a completely different way that they're presented. And then we also have a huge, well-attended Christmas party once a year. So we have 3 annual, well, 4 if you count Kolbe twice, annual things that go.
I've been going out to hunt since early in 2006. Sometimes God puts you on a journey and you don't realize you're actually on a journey. So all I did was actually accept an invitation from Father Jerry Martin, Jay Jackson, and Mr. Leo Segalia. And the whole purpose was Father Martin said, we're just going out there to see if we can establish a little better Catholic presence at Hunt. Well, I was just going because I wanted to see what was behind that razor wire, okay? Complete curiosity, so I thought, okay? We go, we establish, they say, oh, we're going to start having a mass on Fridays. We just want free people to come. Yeah, all right, I can do that. That's easy enough. What I didn't know is over the next 18 years, all the answers to the questions I had were going to be answered. In 1999, New Year's Eve, I was the victim of a carjacking and a kidnapping, and I was taken out of state. So I went to the prison that day as a victim of a violent crime with a very stern mindset that you should put people in prison for the crime they commit, and they should stay there forever for the harm that they cause to people. That's just, I didn't have anything to tell me anything different, okay? God was not going to let it rest with that. What I came to learn and struggled with is, how can a person hurt somebody who hasn't done them anything? I was just sitting at a red light, and you ran into my car, you stuck a gun at my head, and then you had to go and snatch me. I couldn't understand that. If I hit you, I understand you're going to hit me back, okay? Anyway, obviously, I'm here, so, you know, I was able to escape that situation. My person did go to trial. My person is currently serving at Angola. Through the years, what I learned, because I was just going with Father Jerry to, you know, so he had one person there with him. What I learned is that people cannot be defined by one moment and one decision in their lifetime. I learned that my person who committed that crime, God has a purpose in his life, and his life matters. And I went through all the process years later to meet with my offender. And it was arranged and set up, and as it turned out, he got in trouble, so he was unable to do that. But that didn't stop the journey that I was on. And so I've been asked, just like those of you who are new probably thought I was the representative for the women's prison. I've only been in the women's prison one time to give a presentation, and it completely freaked me out that they all looked like me. I was like, oh, I got to go back to my tattooed, gruff guys, okay? I raised boys. I've done 41 years in education. I ran trade programs for high schools. So I was very comfortable in the men's prison. Also, they named it after a woman, okay? So obviously there's a reason I was there. And here's what I have found out. Those men need a positive female role model in their life. I act as their mother, their disciplinarian sometimes, the nagging sister, the bratty sister, and sometimes the offended wife that would look at you and say, did you just call me an old lady? So just being there fills a need in their life that, they've never had. So I have fought for the 19 years that I have been at Hunt, because it's not always easy. And they still would rather that I run on down to the women's prison, okay? But I am not, all right? And so, Miss Elayn Hunt, her and Mary Bird Perkins were the only two women in their law school class the year they graduated. And she established as the leader, Governor Edwards appointed her as the DOC leader, and at the time, her goal was to do battle for the very people that were incarcerated, to fight for them. And so that is kind of what I do. It can be as simple as they need me to get materials for them. Right now I'm on a quest to get pickleball paddles for them. Whatever it is, then I can do that. I have yet to be able to teach the administration that I am not a deacon, okay? They still want to introduce me as, oh, this is Deacon Staci. I was like, look, it's hard enough for Catholics to accept that I'm to have a title of chaplain, okay? So, it just completely freaks people out. But, I function, like I said, in those roles as teacher, assistant to, whatever the deacon needs for me to do. But most of all, like I said, probably as a mother. You don't need to bring a skill set to us, okay? They just need you to show up. They need to see you. And part of the relationship that we have with them is because, one, they trust us, because we've been there a very long time. They know we're not there just to be curious anymore, okay? So you don't have to do anything. Just come and show up. And they may look and go, ooh, what kind of shirt is that? Because we are the outside world we have to bring to them. Jorge, am I good? He stole all my time. He didn't tell me he was talking. So anyway, I do invite, not just the gentlemen, and it doesn't matter if you have like one day to volunteer, once a year. Sometimes I deal with an offender where the sadness is he hasn't had a visit or contact with anyone from the outside. So I'll get a friend of mine and say, hey, I need you to write a letter to John. You don't have to put a return address, just send it to John. And John gets a piece of mail that he hasn't received in 30 or 40 years. That's huge, okay? And that's probably one of the benefits of prison ministry. How many of you use a Ziploc bag and then chunk it? Yeah, lots of us. Oh, that's a precious commodity to them. A Sharpie? They don't have all the little tiny insignificant things that we do. So it is a big deal, okay? Your presence would be a big deal. And ladies, please don't shy away, because there are lots of roles that I could use you. Also, the Christmas party, you know what they look forward to? Like one of the things that they love all of it, but I don't have a singing ability in my body, okay? Not even in the shower should I sing. But at Christmas, I will stand in the middle of a table. They have to help me up now. I used to be able to hop up there, but I can't. And, you know, I will get grown men who are incarcerated for some heinous crime, some of them, to act out and sing to the top of their lungs the 12 days of Christmas. They will do 8 maids a milking.
It's an amazing thing.
It is hilarious, okay, just to earn the title of who actually wins. So, like I said, no skill set needed, no singing, no theology. You come with a pure heart, and I promise you, you're going to find Jesus there.
I've been involved in prison ministry in some form or fashion for about 20 years. I was living in Ohio, served as a volunteer there in county jail, and that really was a wonderful opportunity, wonderful experience. Moved here, spent a little time at St. Charles Parish. That was probably I've never been intimidated or felt threatened in all the time I've been there. That's one thing I want to make sure I'm clear. I think everybody else has kind of said that. I would say that. But in St. Charles Parish, it was a little different. I never felt threatened, but it's probably the closest I came to feeling threatened. But I think that's very, very rare. I have been the chaplain at the women's prison, LCIW, Louisiana Correctional Institute for Women, for almost 8 years now. I let it be known when I was going through formation as a deacon that I had been involved before, really felt an attraction to this type of ministry. Father Jamin David, who was our formation director, called me, and about a month before ordination, I was surprised. I never had kind of envisioned being the chaplain at a women's prison, but it's been beautiful. It's really been wonderful, and I'm very grateful for that opportunity. It hadn't come without its challenges, as you might imagine. A male chaplain in a women's prison has its challenges, and it was a period of time, about halfway through, about 3 or 4 years ago, where I was really questioning whether there was couple things that happened, and nothing scandalous, of course, but just some conflicts maybe, or budgeting that I'd had with just trying to work through the system there and through some of the women. And I questioned, and I prayed about it, talked to my spiritual director about it, and I have no doubt this is where the Lord wants me to be. The women have affirmed that. They're beautiful. And the one thing I think, I go to work every day there, or 3 days a week, and I always say what I want to try to be for them after hearing their story is what a true father figure is. And I'm by no means perfect, but hopefully through me they come to understand in a small way that God the Father and the love that He offers, and they can begin to see God maybe in a different image than what they've maybe seen their boyfriend or their husband or whoever maybe had abused them before they got there. So that in and of itself is enough motivation for me to be in this job, and grateful for that. LCIW, I think what's important, and I try to tell everybody this, when you come in, I think most of the time you're going to be surprised. Everybody who's coming as a visitor to check it out and maybe become a volunteer, they find that the ladies, what I call, are very ordinary, in the sense that if they didn't have their state blues on, you might not even realize they're a resident there, an inmate. They're extraordinary in the sense that what they deal with. Yep, they did something wrong. They're there and they're doing their time, but they deal with that situation. It is very, very difficult. So I like to think of it that way. About LCIW, we have currently about 475 women. We are located in the old juvenile correctional facility up in Baker. The prison that was next to Hunt was flooded in 2016. I hadn't gotten there yet, and they moved them all. They had them in a couple different locations, and now they're kind of spread out in really 2 or 3 different locations throughout the state. The good news is that if you've driven out to the men's prison lately on Highway 30, you notice this big, beautiful facility that we're going to be in come summertime, and so we're looking very forward to that. I had a chance to take a tour a couple of weeks ago, and I'm very excited. It's going to be light years ahead of obviously what we're doing now. I don't like to call a prison facility a makeshift facility. That doesn't sound good, but we're getting by, and it's worked well. but we're certainly looking forward to our new digs come summertime. The way we're set up there, most of the women are in dorms, and I, as the chaplain, I can go into the common area of each dorm, so I can't go back into the sleeping areas. Women chaplain, our senior chaplain, full-time state chaplain, can go back there. As a contract volunteer chaplain, I'm contracted for 20 hours a week. I can go into the common areas, and that's good enough. I can, see women there, talk to them, see what's going on, meet with them if they've requested a meeting. There is a small, what we call lockdown or cell block area, and we have probably about 50 beds in there. And unfortunately, they stay full most of the time, and they go there because they misbehaved and did something wrong, and so they're there. But that's kind of, and the way that we're set up, I know Deacon Billy and Deacon Jeff and Staci had talked about access. We don't have, unfortunately, our volunteers. If you were to come in as a volunteer, the ones that are already there, they don't have access to those cell blocks or to those lockdown areas. They don't have access to the dorms. So that's kind of, that may change. We'll have to see when we get into the new facility. We're certainly in transition. But right now, as you come in, you can't visit as a normal visitor. You can't visit the cell block area or the lockdown area. I mean, the cell block or the normal dorms. We currently have about 20 volunteers. We have 4 priests. Father Tom is one of our priests who comes in and does mass. I'm going to tell you about the schedule in just a minute. And Father John Carville, who comes in, he probably comes in the most, and Father Jamin comes in about once a month. We're very grateful for his presence. And then Father Tat is also on our list. He comes in and helps us for our retreats. Basically, the services that we offer the ladies right now, we have our mass or communion service on Saturday morning. Normally, I would be there this morning if it wasn't for this. We have 2 areas. So we have one master service at 9 o'clock in one area, and then at noon in the other. We have an OCIA class that meets on Monday. That's probably where we need our help right now, because we are limited by really time and space. That hopefully again will change when we move into the new prison. But trying to find time on the schedule and the spot is a real challenge with a number of other churches coming in. But we do have an OCIA class, and really looking for, I do that, looking for somebody to come in, or a group to come in and have a schedule where they would come in and do that class each week. That would be certainly something helpful. I've told Jorge this, and I want to be fully transparent here. Right now, the challenge is for new volunteers is trying to utilize that. That's not to discourage y'all if you're thinking about, especially you women. I won't say we don't bring men in, but I'm reluctant for a few reasons. Number one, we've got the men's prisons that you can go and serve in as a man. Number two, there's been not with any Catholic services, but there's been some problems in the past, not with our Catholic volunteers, that given that we have these other opportunities, I really look primarily for women volunteers coming in. So there is, again, some limits to what you can do. Hopefully that'll change when we get to the new prison. You can come in for mass every week if you want to. You can sit with the ladies and visit them there. Again, while you can't go to the dorms or the cell lockdown, you can see them there. We have a Bible study that we each Saturday, kind of opposite our mass. Primarily, it's the Kolbe prison ministry ladies who are coming in one Saturday a month for like a renew session. We have had 2 retreats. We have another one coming up in 3 weeks. And so they come in for a renew, and then one Saturday a month, they come in once a month, and then the other 3 Saturdays we're doing a Bible study using some of the Ascension Press material. If you've used that at your parish, we're getting ready to start the Bible study on the book of the Gospel of Matthew. So we have those opportunities, and again, we have the prison ministry, but that really is ladies who have been through Acts, and we're now kind of transitioning from the Lake Charles Mission Group crew, who has done a wonderful job, over to the Baton Rouge crew as we start to bring that in. Let's see, I think that kind of gives you an overlay. as far as what we do, I'm a little bit jealous. I wish we could do some of the things again, but we're kind of limited in time and space. Hopefully, one other program that we are kind of piloting right now, this may be an opportunity. You can either be in the prison, you can either be a volunteer where you come in and you participate in some of the activities, or you can be a visitor. Every lady has a list of visitors. I think they can have up to 10 family members, friends that have come in. And what we've started for ladies who have no family, they have nobody to come and visit them. We have 2 ladies right now who are getting visitors from a couple of our Catholic, I won't call them volunteers because officially they cannot be volunteers, but they can come in and they can visit them. There may be an opportunity there if you're interested where you would come in as a visitor. So you come and visit specifically that lady and that you would be assigned to. And that would be, I think, a very wonderful opportunity. The 2 opportunities are things that we're piloting right now are going very well. And I think it has a lot of potential. And if we get the okay to increase that, there are a lot of ladies there that don't have visitors on their list. And as our population, I don't think I mentioned this, but our population will double. Basically, we'll go from 475 ladies that we have now to 1,000 when we move in the summer, because the prison will be pretty large.
My name is Deacon Sammy Collura. I have been ordained a deacon for the Diocese of Baton Rouge for about 23 years. At the present time, I am a retired deacon. That is, I am no longer assigned to any particular parish. And as my deacon director told me one day, now you can go where you are needed and not have to be assigned by the diocese. So that's what I'm doing. During the time that I spent in parish ministry, I never really had the time or maybe interest in doing prison ministry, because there's so much in a parish, you don't realize how many ministries go on in a parish. And there's always something for the deacon, the priest, and lay people as well to do in the parish. So my focus then was on the parish. Over the last several months, I have gotten to know Father Brad Doyle, who is also the pastor at Our Lady of Mount Carmel Church in St. Francisville. And by the way, who was also a seminarian at the parish that I was assigned to at St. John the Baptist in Bruley when he was thinking about being a priest. And now I have the opportunity to work with him in this prison ministry. He was the one that got me interested in it. I had never thought about doing it. And at first when he asked me, I said, well, I don't know, I'm a little apprehensive. I want to know, what about the safety? Is it safe to go there? And that's something I think we always think about. Well, I can tell you, and I'm like a neophyte, I've only been doing this a couple of months, but I can tell you in those 2 or 3 months that I've been there, you don't have to worry about it. It's safe, and I'm enjoying it every minute, every time that I go there. I wish I had more time to go there. But as these other guys have said, you have to kind of go when the inmates are available. Now, being in a prison is not like being in a hotel. Those guys have jobs to do during the day. So a lot of our ministries, and I think these other people will tell you the same thing, is that we have to do them in the evening when the inmates are available. And for myself, I'd say, well, I'd like to do it in the morning, but they have details to do. We can't pull them to those jobs. Remember, they're incarcerated and they're serving time and hopefully being converted or will receive a conversion at the end of their term to be able to go out into society and be functional again. I am at DCI, which is Dixon Correctional Institute in Jackson, and it's on a piece of land that encompasses approximately 1,500 acres. It has a maximum capacity of 1,800 inmates, and it's run by a main warden, 2 deputy wardens, and 6 assistant wardens. It is a male-only facility. At the present time, the average inmate age is 40 years old. The Diocese of Baton Rouge has several programs going on at the facility at the present time and would love to offer more programs in the future. This is where we need volunteers. This is where you people that are here to learn more, we need you. We definitely need you. There are many programs that we could do there that these guys want to be involved. And from what I'm hearing from the other prisons in the state, they are actively involved in the ministry. When we do Mass, they do the readings. When Father Brad does the Mass, because we know as Deacon we can't say Mass, but we can do communion services. And when we do a communion service, and I think I have Billy Messenger once a month doing a communion service. We also have the OCIA program, which I am doing. It's something new now, I think, that we have there. And we need some more volunteers with that. We're looking at doing some retreats, the Kolbe retreat. We don't have that at the present time. And again, this is something that you people can help us with because you can be involved in it. You can be involved with the OCIA program as well. We need volunteers to help with that. We do them in the evening from, say, 6:30 to 8 o'clock, somewhere in that area. And the guys come in. And I can tell you, they want to learn. They want to be a part of it. They have no connection with the outside world. I can't tell you, they can't do enough for me. One of them even walks with me back to my vehicle when I leave in the evening. And I don't feel any insecurity there. I feel safe. I'm around people that had committed a crime, but they're there to repent and to be able to go back into the world as a reformed individual of God. The first night I started with my OCIA class, I told the guys, I said, let me tell you one thing. When you leave this prison, you hold your head high when you walk out. For remember, you are a child of God, and God doesn't see a prisoner as any different than the average person like you and I. He sees all of us in the same eyes because he created each one of us in his own image and likeness. So he treats all of us, all of them the same. I said, you have repented, God has forgiven you, and that's the main thing. God has forgiven you. I have been very impressed with the group that I have this year. I have about 9 of them who want to become Catholics. I have 2 of them, which we call, we don't have a, per se, peer minister program yet, which I think at the last meeting with Jorge, we were working on coming up with the guidelines to be a prison minister. I have 2 of the guys that are sitting in my class with me that have gone through the OCIA program in previous year and have come back and want to be a part of it again. But I don't feel like I'm in the position to be able to say, okay, you can be a peer minister because we don't have a guidelines as to tell what you have to have in order to be a peer minister. But this is something that you can do, a volunteer can do. We need your help. It's a very worthwhile cause. We don't have a lot of programs at Dixon Correctional Institute, but we want more. They want Bible studies. They want retreats. They want faith sharing. But we have to have some help. If you consider it, I think you will be very satisfied to know that you have no problems to worry about. These guys want to learn. They want to be part of a church parish. They want to be a part of a church community. So it's something that you might want to consider because it's worthwhile. And I tell you what, one of y'all have mentioned today about the Christmas party. And that was something I was maybe only there for a month when we had it. And I was just, where do these guys put all that food that they ate? I mean, we had more food that we probably could feed like Jesus, 5,000 people. But I mean, there was nothing left. And I said, I told one of them, I said, I don't know how are you going to sleep tonight? Because, man, there was nothing left when I left. They like that. They like your company. they want to be part of the community. I told them, I said, when you go back, I said, if I see you on the street, I said, I'm not going to say, oh, you were in prison. No, God doesn't say that. We're all God's children. We need you in that ministry. It's worthwhile. These guys love the people that come in, because you got to realize we may be the only people they see the whole week. And we go once a week. We go on Tuesdays. On the first and third Tuesdays, I do OCIA. And on the second and fourth Tuesdays, Father Brad does Mass. And I don't know about on Sundays who goes to bring communion to DCI, but I don't do that. But I have been very impressed in coming in as a newcomer to it, and a lot of you that are considering going into prison ministry, pray about it. Ask God if that is for you, because I think you would really enjoy it. You don't have to worry about safety. I mean, we have classrooms and we have a chapel. And I'm the new guy on the block. We have 4 classrooms, but as the other deacons have said in their talks, we have all faiths involved there. And since I'm the newcomer, I got what was left. There's 4 classrooms, but there's Protestant services, Baptist, Methodist, and all of those things going on at the same time. So I was shoved over into a corner in the chapel to do my service. And Billy can tell you, because he was there the other night when I was in the back, remember when you were doing your communion service. So there's a lot going on in the prison. Guys want more. They want Bible studies. They want communion retreats. And you have to remember that this is a different type of setting. And so we have to adapt it to the setting. We can't have a retreat where each one has a room for, like at Manry's or some of these other retreat centers. They go back to their cell at night. The retreat master goes to his room, and then we come back the next day or whatever. Whereas if you're at a retreat, you stay there the whole weekend. I think my time is out, but from a newcomer, prison ministry is where it's happening. You need to be involved in it. We love you, we need you, and God needs you. Thanks.
We talked a lot about the chaplains today that we have here and deacons, but we have in attendance also 2 prior chaplains who dedicated many, many years to prison ministry and who have been mentors to many of us. First one of them, they're both in this table here, Jay Jackson, who's very involved, and Deacon Zeke Nola. So we recognize them also. Thank you. I'm going to quickly try to answer some of the questions or show you some of the material that you have in your packages. This tells you or gives you the 4 facilities that we talked about and gives you general information on those. And you can see I'm not going to go through every detail here, but it gives you an idea. And I even put the distance, to Baton Rouge from there or from Baton Rouge to the facility, just to help out discerning which one logistically works out for you better. And then the people who are involved, or the chaplains who are involved now, most involved. There's many people involved in these facilities. And then who, if they accept males or females as volunteers. In Angola, they accept females, but I say Billy, 90% is males in the facility they're volunteering. And things like that. Just some pictures of Angola there, of Louisiana State Penitentiary. Keep in mind that, and they would be helpful, but obviously you can't have pictures here which show people inside or even the incarcerated. So we're shy of those. We don't have those. This gives you, this is just a recap on what you heard this morning. In terms of the Mass, the communion services. Staci herself has talked about, singing. In Hunt, they do plenty of that. I'm sure in the other facilities also. So she looks also for some people who can help in choir. and with instruments also, so you're looking at that. Some of the pictures of a hunt, I think I included those in your packages. And then the next one talks about, other than masses, sacraments, and communion services, the other ministries in each of the facilities. As you can see, in terms of cell block visits, which one of the chaplains talked about, I think it was Deacon Jeff. You know, we have only 2 facilities in which we do those, Angola and Hunt. And you see the parishes that are most involved in those. Any questions so far? About that? Again, you have all that in your packages. Pictures of LCIW. And again, this is going to change in the summer. Right. And then finally, besides the cell block visits, these are the classes, the faith sharing, Bible studies, OCIA, and then the retreats. And Kolbe retreats, for example, Kolbe prison ministry retreats are held right now at Hunt and at LCIW. And Val is going to speak about that in a few minutes here. Okay? And then they mentioned about holiday meals. So these are all things. So there's a lot more to prison ministry than just visiting Dixon Correctional Institute. And this is the slide that tells you how to volunteer. Basically, there's maybe a 3-step process here where you have to take the course. And I gave you the link there. You can copy that to your web browser. Once you take the course and have the certificate, which looks like this, you'll print it. And then you have the forms, which I gave you copies of the 3 forms that you need to file and to fill and file. Any questions? So scan the certificate and the fill forms, and you email them to the facility that you are interested. You can email to more. Feel free to add me. I can help keep in touch with those. However, for each facility, you need separate forms and separate scans of your. Okay. All right. That's that. I put a copy of the 3 forms there, but you have individual sheets of each of them in your package. And then other requirements. Father Tom will talk about this a little bit, but if you're bringing cell block, if you're visiting the cell blocks and you're bringing communion, the Eucharist to the cell blocks, the EMHC, Extraordinary Minister of Holy Communion Training, is needed. And that I gave you a link to get there. It's always good, and actually Father Tom will talk about this, to talk to your parish pastor and meet with him. And then I mentioned here, and some of them are here. Kyle, where are you? Kyle Balcom, right here. So it's a good idea also always to call or meet with one of the prison ministry cell block visits, if that's what you want to do. You have Bob Jelly. He couldn't come here today. He's actually at an Acts retreat. He does St. George here. St. Jude, we saw Kyle. And Joe Mistretta, I saw him there. He is. Joe Mistretta also for Ascension of our Lord. And then in Hunt Correctional, those were the 3 for Angola. Hunt Correctional, Bernie Caripio is here, and he handles 2 weekends a month now. The 1st and 3rd, going and doing the cell block visits there. Okay. For all the ministries in state prisons, as they're shown in those slides that I mentioned, you have met them today. See that there. And then for Kolbe Prison Ministry, you're going to hear about it soon. Val Browning, and then Matthew Pineda, who's right here. for the Louisiana Parole Project or Federal Douglas, which you'll hear about it. Okay?
Thank you, Jorge. Again, my name is val.browning. I'm from Most Blessed Sacrament Parish. In May of 2023, a good friend of mine invited me to participate in the Frederick Douglass Project at Hunt Correctional. I had a vision of prison life. And so I went and did this visit, and my vision was 360 degrees wrong. And after that visit, I was walking out and I looked at John Paul and I said, man, this would be an awesome place for an Acts retreat. And that stayed in my head for a little while. So that Sunday night, I'm sitting on the couch watching the football game or something, and I pull up Catholic Prison Ministries, and Kolbe comes up. And so over the course of the next few months, I'm interacting with them, and they invite me to go over to Allen Correctional in Kinder and be on a team. And as the saying goes, the rest is history. So Kolbe Prison Ministries is based out of the San Antonio area of Texas. We're a 501c3. It started in 1997. It was originally called Prison Acts. But because they did not follow the Acts curriculum exactly, Acts said, you need to call it something else. And so the guys who started it sat down and decided to come up with a name, and through prayer and discernment, they picked St. Maximilian Kolbe. And the mission is to share the agape love of Jesus. That's what it's all about. Going to see these guys and, ladies who were forgotten. So most of you probably know Maximilian Kolbe was in Auschwitz and was killed there. He volunteered to take the place of a man who was going to be put to death. And he stepped up and said, I'll take his place. And the commander of the prison camp said, why? And he said, I'm a Catholic priest. And so he took his place. The program, we do men and women. We do a 3-day retreat. If you've been to an Acts retreat, it's very, very similar. We take all faiths. There is no requirement to be Catholic, but it is a Catholic retreat. We do a lot of catechesis. We do scripture. We do mass every day for them. 40 to 60 people, depending on the size of the facility. Some of the Texas facilities have big gyms and they'll do 120 retreatants, which, kind of makes me nervous because that many. But, so we've done over 400 retreats across the country where we're currently at. That's 18,000 inmates have been through the program. Several who have since been released from their facilities come back as part of the outside team. And the way the Kolbe retreat is set up, we have an outside team of volunteers. Inmates who have been through the program can apply to be on the inside team. And then we have the retreatants. So, in 2018, they came to Louisiana. 2023, they went to Florida. This past year, they started in Oklahoma and Kansas. And right now, we're in discussions with Utah, New Mexico, and Alabama about starting the program at their facilities, as well as Mississippi. Mississippi, we've got some guys coming to participate in the next retreat at Hunt. So in talking to administrators, correctional officers at the different facilities, Kolbe has a positive impact on the facilities. The big piece is we go back. Deacon Jeff and Staci talked about faith sharing on Wednesdays. There's Kolbe guys every Wednesday. Mass on Fridays, there are Kolbe guys every Friday. We go back. The ladies at the gate at Hunt know me now. It's funny because before it's like, who are you? What are you doing? Now it's like, hey, how you doing? Because we keep going back. They talked about the Christmas party. We had some guys cook a big meal for the Christmas party, and we went there. A lot of these guys don't have people coming to see them. We're their family. They talked about security. Someone once asked me, you don't feel intimidated? I said, if somebody wants to harm me, there's about 40 inmates that are going to protect me. I'm safer in there than I'm outside, because you have become their family. You come back regularly. They get to know you. So the growth of Kolbe, from its evolution, has recognized the need to create a local leadership groups. So we start core teams now. I'm the president of the local core team here in Baton Rouge. It covers the Diocese. And we've got core teams across Texas, one in Florida. We just started the one in Kansas, and we're working on getting the one started in Oklahoma. So here you talk about, Pensacola, Tallahassee. They just finished their third retreat in the Pensacola area. They're heading east toward Tallahassee. There are a couple facilities. And we had the past president of our board of directors just recently met with the bishop in Orlando and St. Augustine, and both of them said, we're on board, let's go. Kansas City, they formed a core team. They've had a women's retreat and a men's retreat. The women's retreat was led by Lisa Lambert out of Lake Charles. She took a group of ladies from Lake Charles and went up there and helped them put that on. And so now they're going. 63 parishes across the states of Louisiana and Texas. By comparison, Kairos is in 50 facilities, in Texas, 6 here. Kairos started as a Catholic retreat. Now it's a non-denominational. And we've got guys who are moving over that are Catholics, have been involved there, coming to us because we're focused on Catholicism. This quote here is one of my favorites. This past September at Hunt, one of the retreatants got up and he said, for a time there, I forgot I was in prison. How impactful is that quote? And I talk to this guy regularly. Every time I go to Mass, I'll search him out and check on him and see how he's doing. We are there to show him God's love, to show him the beauty of our faith. After our first retreat at Hunt, the following Friday, we had 2 gentlemen baptized into the faith and 8 confirmed. Of those 8 that were confirmed, 3 of them asked Kolbe brothers to stand with them as their sponsor when the bishop converted them into our faith. In September, we had 2 gentlemen who were on our inside team get confirmed the following Friday. To go and see these guys and their thirst for our faith and knowledge is inspiring. When we go and they talk about, you gave up time with your family to come visit us. I can't believe. I tell them, I say, guys, I get more from you than you get from me. I guarantee it. But they are very receptive because we keep coming back. That's the key. You keep coming back. They get to know you. They get to trust you. They get to believe in you. And again, it's not about, pounding them with our faith, but it's living our faith, showing them, getting to know them, being a friend to them, because a lot of them do not have anybody supporting them. Inmate out of Texas says, because of Kolbe Ministries, I am more free than most men that live on the outside, because they have become adapted to our faith and they have put Jesus number 1 as that priority. That's what we're all supposed to do. Put our trust in Jesus. This is a picture of an adoration chapel that was set up at one of the retreats. So locally, we've had 2 retreats at LCIW, as Deacon Tim said. We've got one in 3 weeks that he and I are trying to finalize planning for. And then They'll have another one in September. We had 2 retreats at Hunt in 2024. Our next one is at the end of April. And then talking with Deacon Billy about getting into Angola this year, trying to get with DCI to see. And then we're open to any parish facility but we have to be invited in. So, the first big hurdle of getting into a diocese is getting an acceptance letter from the bishop. We've covered that. So we can go anywhere within our diocese where we are invited and asked to come. This is a picture of the retreatants and team after our first retreat at Hunt. Several of the guys in this picture have since been released and are out. But over the course of those 3.5 days, they build a bond between themselves and between the volunteers. So opportunities, you can volunteer to be on a retreat team. You can attend faith sharing or mass events, OCIA instructors. You can be behind the scenes if you're not sure you want to go into a facility. We get sweets baked for the handout during retreats. You can provide a full meal for the retreat team and donations or prayers. If you want to get on our email list so you get notifications, the email address is at the bottom. Also on your table, there's the email address you can send to ask questions or whatever. It is a program that makes a difference, has positive results. And, Deacon Tim talked about the ladies come back monthly at LCIW. Hopefully when they get to the new facility, we can increase that. Because, we're building a team of ladies here in Baton Rouge. We've got 22 currently on the retreat team, and I'm sure after this retreat, the number will increase because the ladies who are on the team will get back and talk about it. Currently, our distribution list is 270 people across the diocese. And, so it's open to anyone who wants to get involved in prison ministry. It's just a different avenue to help. The deacons and chaplains there are looking for help. This is just an avenue to introduce guys to participate in prison ministry. But, take a little bit of Matt's thunder here. The Douglas program, Frederick Douglass program, look into that if it allows you to dip your toe in, going into a facility and meeting some of the inmates and talking to them and then expose you to see. That's what converted me and got me interested, and a lot of others as well. So, if you're kind of on that fence, try that. And then through experience, I will tell you the 3 forms you fill out to get into the facility, scan them, keep them, because there's the same forms everywhere. And every year you got to turn them in. So just put them in a folder. That way you just pull them up and you don't have to fill it out every time. You just have to get a new certificate. And then some other tricks, don't take pictures of your forms, scan them, and make sure they're on a full-size paper. Right, Tim?
Yeah, you got to redate it. So everything, put a new date on there.
Yep. But the deacons at the different facilities are very helpful. They're looking for help, so they're going to help you to get through the maze. Unlike other things, you've got your schedule, but you're at a facility, so you got their schedule, and their schedule overrules everybody. So, counts and different things, you just have to bear through and just wait. So, but, prison ministry has been very rewarding and fulfilling for me. 2 years ago, I would not have said I'd be doing this, but, I've met some guys at Hunt that, I love to death, and I'll do anything for them to help them. And, they made one bad mistake, they got caught. I've made more than one bad mistake, me. I just never got caught. It's the only difference. They got caught, I didn't. They're no different. And, this day and age with our current governor, he enhanced things. They've changed since they got there. How many of us have not changed over the years? Don't talk to my wife. I'm still immature to her, but we've gotten wisdom. They have too. We've grown. They have too. So for the retreats, we get the guys out of the dorms. We don't get the guys out of the cell blocks. The very first one, we had the cream of the crop that, were handpicked. But now word has gotten out about Kolbe, and everybody's, hey, how do I get to come to that retreat? How do I get to go? And I tell them who they need to talk to. Go talk to Deacon Jeff or Victor. That's, it's not me, it's them. So, it's a positive program, through the course of the retreat. They get exposed to our faith. They get exposed to real agape love, and they feel it. That first day, they're kind of like, what kind of, what you selling or something, And by the end of it, they're all in, because they see that we are all in for them. Finally, for the first time ever, the annual conference is leaving Texas. It's coming to Baton Rouge. It'll be at Most Blessed Sacrament on Saturday, July 26th. So it's open to anyone. And, it's a full day of talks about prison ministry. We're going to have the warden from Elayn Correctional come give a talk, since Kolbe's been there for a very long time, because he tells a story of not only has Kolbe Prison Ministries helped Elayn Correctional, it has helped the town of Kinder, and so it's a pretty awesome talk. We'll have some ex-offenders, we'll have program people, and so it's a day of prison ministry. And like I said, it's the first time it's left Texas, so we'll be interested to see. We're going to introduce some seafood and different cookings here, but it's open to anyone. The biggest one stands out is we had a retreatant who is a Pentecostal minister. And he stood up and he said, I came in here not knowing what to expect, and wasn't planning on drinking any of your Kool-Aid. He said, but I don't think I drank that much, but I've seen enough that I'm considering OCIA now. And the verbal gas we heard from the retreatants and inside team members was very audible. They were shocked when he said this. And so, that is, to me, a huge piece of what they experience. Another gentleman said, he had drifted away from our faith, cradle Catholic, and he said, he had a hole in his soul, and he'd been searching to fill it for a while, and he found, from this retreat, he found out what that hole was from, because he had walked away from our faith, and he was coming back. And I see him every Friday I go to Mass, I see him at Mass now, and he's, gotten re-engaged. So, it's little things like that that just have such a effect on you as an individual that you can't walk away from, and you can't forget.
Our next speaker is Matt Pineda, who's going to talk about Louisiana Parole Project. He's also got a unique perspective of being inside the facility, of being a prisoner one time. We have a few ex-prisoners here with us also today, so I'm very honored to have them here and to be part of this, and I look forward to future events like this, where they can present and give us a perspective of what it is to be freed and then be part or compartments of a society and all that, which is a unique perspective. But without any further ado, I'll let you with Matt Pineda. Here you go. Yeah, just the down our road.
Yeah, that's it.
All right. Thank you very much, and good morning. My name is Matthew Pineda. I am Community Engagement Manager for the Louisiana Parole Project. I don't think I'm all that special to be up here speaking to y'all, but God has kind of changed things in my life, and I'm so very grateful for that. So maybe I am kind of special because I am a child of God now, and He loves me, and He's given me gifts and talents and abilities, and a lot of these abilities and talents came to me while I was incarcerated. I'm usually not a very talkative person. You may beg to differ after this is over with because I can go on, but I love talking about what God has done for me and the experience that He's given me. And our work in Louisiana Parole Project, we help individuals who are impacted by the Louisiana criminal justice system. Men and women who have served time in prisons throughout Louisiana. Some of them serve 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years inside, and they come home. We pick them up from the prisons. We bring them to our office. We orientate them. We tell them about our mission and goals. We have them sign contracts to be part of our programs. They abide by rules. We provide housing for them for up to 12 months. We help them with a support system. We have peer support classes. We have reentry classes. We really just have to put them through an entirely new way of living. Because men that have served 40, 50 years, they come out and we put a phone in their hand the very first day. The first question is, what do you want me to do with this? I don't know how to turn it on. I don't know how to use it. And we say, well, that's going to be your lifeline from this point forward. And don't ask me to show it to you how to use it. We're going to get some college students in here because they know what to do with it. And so we have a good network with colleges throughout Louisiana, with Baton Rouge Community College, LSU Law School, LSU Social Work. And we have so many students that come in and they're just like kids. I'm like, man, I'm really getting old because they look like teenagers and they're actually 20-something years old. But they're coming in and they're showing guys 50, 60, 70 years old how to use the phone, and the guys are just locked in. They're listening. They're so ready. They're so anxious about starting a new way of life because all they've known in the past was in prison, where you got to be tough, you got to be hard, you got to be stern, you have to be a man. And then here we are with all these young college students, and they're just listening like they were kids all over again, listening to adults while they were in class. And so I love doing my job because, it's just, I'm helping people just like myself, because I'm formerly incarcerated. I did 35 years in the Department of Corrections, and for me, it was a very positive experience. I mean, you may not believe it, but I was much cuter when I went into prison. 16 years old, unfortunately I had committed a terrible crime, heinous crime. I deserved to be in prison. They wanted to give me the death penalty, and I probably deserved it for what I did. I am no longer ashamed of what I did, but I'm definitely not proud of what I did. I grew up very privileged, cradle Catholic, went to St. Mary Magdalene Elementary School in Metairie, Louisiana. Ended up going to John Curtis Christian School. I was led to play football, so I went there. My brothers and sisters all went and graduated from Catholic high schools in Jefferson Parish. Thank God for praying parents, because I went astray at the age of 15. Things were pretty tough financially for my parents, and my mom came to me in 1985 and said, hey, you're going to have to choose who you want to live with, your father or me, because we're getting separated. My dad started drinking because of financial problems. My mom was a saint, and my dad was always at all my games. Once he started drinking, he was probably getting kicked out of every game because he was always a coach. Get out of the gym, get off the field. It was causing problems in his life, and it caused problems with the family. And family was everything to me. So me having to decide who I was going to live with really devastated me, and I couldn't choose one or the other. So I started to rebel. I started using drugs, thinking maybe if I do well in school, which I was an honor roll student, and I thought maybe doing well in athletics. Was a good football player, traveled all over the country playing all kind of sports. And I thought maybe that would give me some attention from my parents and might bring them back together. Didn't happen. And I got invited to be on a Mardi Gras parade, speaking of Mardi Gras season. And I tried to get some money for throws, and went about it the wrong way. I was working a little part-time job, didn't make enough money, so I ended up trying to break into a neighbor's house when I thought they weren't there, and they were sleeping. And I startled them. They woke up, and I was scared. They grabbed me, tried to run out. All I thought was, here I am, a good kid, raised by good family members. I can't get caught. Ended up stabbing both of them multiple times and ran out of the house. A week later, I was arrested and tried as an adult, thrown away with 2 life sentences. And in Louisiana, life sentences means you die in prison. End story. And so that was the law. That was the reality, that I was going to die in prison. Once again, thank God for praying parents, because they were praying rosaries. They had prayer groups praying for me all across the parishes and all across the state. And God opened doors for me that nobody could close. Opportunities came to me, and I took advantage of them. Even though I had a life sentence, and most prisons don't allow lifers to get educational opportunities, I bugged the heck out of them until they let me get in. And they said, you have a life sentence, you're never going home. Why waste the resources on an individual like you? I'm like, one day I'm going to get out of here, whether you say so or not. And I didn't believe that I was going to spend the rest of my life in. And then once I got 25 years in, I thought, well, maybe I might spend the rest of my life in there. But God had touched my heart by that time, because I was sorry for what I did. I had regretted that. And I made my confession right after I went in. And I really, truly believe that God forgave me. And I truly believe that my family forgave me. I know the state didn't forgive me. And I had to prove to them, that I was worthy of a second chance. And so once I got into the ministry, after a retreat inside the prison, and after going to Mass all this time, I never really wanted to take a leadership role. I was just happy going to church and receiving that Eucharist and making my confession when I could. And it was really beautiful for me, and it kept me focused on, it kept me with hope. And had individuals just like y'all coming in for these Catholic services. And many of them didn't say much at first, but after seeing us week after week, they would come in and it was like, man, how you doing? What's going on with you? Or they might ask you a question you told them about, 2 or 3 weeks ago, and they're like, man, this guy really cares. He remembers our conversation. And so then I look forward to seeing, people like David Bondy and Jeannie Bondy, Deacon Chauvin Wilkinson, Deacon Robert Cush. All these people are now deacons and clergy members serving in big ministries, and Deacon Jeff Easley was one of them as well. For all the time, came in for Mass lots of time, heard my confessions. I'm glad he hears a lot of confessions because he don't remember mine. But we're able to unload these burdens on our hearts, on the inside, and we were able to do that because people coming in, and they were listening, and they cared, and that made a big difference in my life. I am who I am today because of the faith that I've lived, even on the inside. It was tough to have hope, knowing that I was going to die in prison, that I was never going to go home. And, sometimes I believed, and I had to kick myself in the butt and say, get up, you're going to church. Even though I didn't feel like it, I'm get up, I'm going to church. Because once I got there, then I got to meet outside guests coming in, and they cared. It was really a blessing to me because my mom and dad couldn't be there every time. Guess what? My mom and dad are still together today. God used that experience, that horrible experience of me going to prison, brought them back together, and they're still alive today. and I get to go see them every other weekend. And the roles have kind of reversed because now I get to tell them what to do because they're too old to remember a whole lot of things. The roles have kind of reversed. I'm taking care of them. I'm cleaning up their house, cleaning up their yard. I'm helping them financially. And I thank God for that because if I'd still be in prison, I would have never been able to do that. So I think it's a miracle that I'm out today. And for me, a believer, a miracle is just the manifestation of an answered prayer. You know, and my prayers were answered even before I came out because the Lord had really dealt with me in my life while I was serving. And I thought, you know what, Lord? I'm seeing all these guys go home. I'm helping them learn how to weld. I'm helping them do carpentry work, showing them how to paint, teaching them some morals, stuff that I've learned, you know, in the church before I went to prison. And all these things from my childhood came back to me. And then I was building community on the inside. You know, with a few sandwiches, man, you can get a lot of attention on the inside. You know, I see why Jesus was breaking bread with people all the time, because it brought them together. And then they got to see, you know, how common they are. Instead of the differences, it was the similarities that brought them all together. And then they were like, man, I want to be a part of something good. I want to be a part of this church. So luckily, I had favor inside the prison, and I was able to start teaching these classes while we were at DCI. And we were doing RCIA, we were doing Catholicism by Bishop Barron. We were doing Lord Teach Me to Pray, the spiritual exercise. We had men going through these things. We had a rosary group every week. And then we had Eucharistic services and Mass every once in a while. And it was just amazing community. And I was at Dixon. You saw on the board, Dixon didn't have anything on there. And it was funny because Father Brad went to Dixon when he first started. He's like, why aren't you guys doing anything? They said, well, because Matthew went home. Because I was organizing everything there. And then when I went when I went for parole, nobody thought I was going home because I had life sentences. Like, you're never going home. He's not going to make it, so we're not even worried about it. But I had successors that were able to take my place when I left. And guess what? God delivered them before COVID was out. So they were gone. Nobody was there to take over these ministries. But we still have all the equipment and all the curriculums that's there. And they just need some outside people to give them a little motivation to go. I just went Tuesday with Deacon Sammy here. And, you know, he's doing OCIA. And we have other guys that say, hey, let's do the readings. Let's pray. Let's talk about it. They just want to be involved. And that's how I was. I was just so good to see men and women just like yourself come in. It was like seeing my mom and dad. You know, it got to the point where I don't even want to shake hands anymore. Bring it in. You know, I'm a hugger. Come on, I don't get to hug many people in here, and I'm not going to hug many people in here. But God changed that. He's like, now I'm hugging everybody. You know, like, man, I love you. I care about you, and I want to be a blessing to you, and I want you to be a blessing to me. And man, I did that through Parole Project because our executive director, Andrew Hunley, was the first juvenile lifer ever to come home. And he was a prisoner. He was a juvenile lifer. And when he got out, we were all glad because that meant that opens the door for other guys that are serving juvenile life. That's a good thing. And he didn't have to serve as much time as some of us did. We were happy. And I was so happy because I mentored him while I was on the inside. Not because, you know, who he was or what he looked like, but he was a juvenile and he was in for life. And he came in, I was already in 15 years. I said, come on over here. Let's get involved, build up your record, you know, get involved in education, get involved in programs. Because one day the law is going to change and we're going to have a chance to get out of here. And we have to be ready. We have to be prepared, we have to be educated, and we have to have the connections that we need to do well on the outside and to get that parole decision from the board. And so he got out, and probably 4 or 5 years later, he had built up this parole project, has properties, has vehicles, has staff. Half the staff's formerly incarcerated, you know, because that's why we do the peer support, because we've been there. We have a little street cred with the men and women coming home. They're like, hey, you've been there, you already did, and you're doing pretty good. was like, I don't have a whole lot. I don't have a whole lot of money, but my car's paid for. I got enough money I can make my payments from rent and pay my bills, and I can go fishing. As you can see, that's nice fish, isn't it? You know, God allowed me to not only be a good fisher of fish, but now, you know, after being axed, I got my little fishing leaders bracelet. I'm becoming a fisher of men, you know, making disciples of all nations. I love going into prison. I love talking about Parole Project because we provide a support system for these men and women who have no one. And a lot of them are inside, and we're excited about what we do. We love what we do. And, you know, I had a whole little slideshow for y'all to present y'all, but, you know, this is who we are at Parole Project. You know, we're making a difference in the lives of these men that we serve. Oh, wrong way. Our mission is to enhance public safety through effective advocacy program and a service for incarcerated and formerly incarcerated so that they may reach their full potential. You know, we're not expecting everybody to go out and be the presidents of an organization or, you know, the owners of their own businesses. We're just trying to get them to be active members in the community and their churches and be assets instead of burdens, you know, to be taxpayers instead of tax burdens. And so our vision is a justice system that recognizes rehabilitation, restoration, and redemption. We do believe in second chances. That is our motto. Our program was founded in 2016 by Mr. Andrew Hundley, who I just talked to you about. We practice the peer-mentored community reentry because who's best to say and show them what to do to our clients than men and women who have already traveled that same path. And we go by evidence-driven statistics that we get from Louisiana Department of Corrections and the Bureau of Prisons and Department of Justice. You know, and it shows that men and women who come home from prison that have a support system and that have assistance on the way, that are provided services that they need to make a positive reentry, they do successfully most of the time. We've had 600 clients since 2016 come through our program, and we've had less than 3% recidivism rate. And that's pretty amazing considering, you know, the average in Louisiana Department of Corrections is probably around 50, 60%. You know, so we're proud of that statistic. I'm not bragging or anything, but that's what we do. Is, you know, it's worked and it's shown. This is Mr. Andrew Hundley. He is not only my boss, he is my friend, and I thank God that I crossed his path because when he came in the 1990s to the prison, I was there to help him. In 2020, when I made parole, he was there that day, same day, to pick me up and bring me to the Parole Project. And I had to go to the Parole Project because part of my parole restrictions was I could never go back to Jefferson Parish. And they did that, I think, because they were angry that I made parole and they just wanted to hurt me. All my plans were to go back in that area, employment, housing, and guess what? Andrew was right here to say, hey, we have a place for you. We're gonna help you find work. We're gonna get you a fresh start. Relax, don't worry about it. So that took a lot of burden off my parents who are elderly. My dad's 87, my mom's 82. You know, my dad's got dementia. Sometimes he remembers me, sometimes he doesn't. But whoever he is on that particular day, I just go with it. You know, like, hey, you know, play some Frank Sinatra, he's back to his own self. You know, it stimulates his mind. He gets excited, he remembers things. And so I'm there with him. And you know, it's just amazing because having experience with my dad having dementia, we have one of our clients who wasn't my friend when he came home. His name is Big Lou. A lot of you guys might have met him. He used to work at the ranch house at Angola. He came on staff with us after being a client, was diagnosed with dementia. He's now in a nursing home. And he's not doing very good. But on my way back from visiting my parents, which is quite often, I stop there in Hammond and I see him. And he doesn't know who he is. He doesn't know where he is. He thinks he's still in prison and his health has just declined. But I go there and see him and I love on him. And we actually have community service projects where we bring some of our clients and some of our staff, and we go and bring blankets and we bring food. It was just a beautiful experience, and that's kind of things that we're kind of teaching our clients when they come through our program. It's like, hey, just because you're in prison doesn't mean you have to act like a prisoner. You know, it's never too late to live happily ever after. And now, because you took from society and ended up in prison, now that you're going back, it's time for you to give back. And that's what we believe with Parole Project. As you can see here, this is the first day this gentleman was out, and our director, Andrew, stopped, show him how to pay gas at the pump now using a debit card. You know, every experience we try to use as an educational opportunity and a learning experience for our clients. Evidence tells us that peer mentorship reduces recidivism, that standard service plus peer mentorship are the most effective, and that early intervention before the release and immediately upon release. The peer pressure against criminal activity, not simply how not to get in trouble, but we show them the right things to do so they don't even have to worry about that. They have a peace of mind and a peace of life. We focus on social navigation and self-efficacy, and we support civic engagement. Kind of some of the things that I already talked to you about. One thing that we provide for our clients, and it's 3 keys to reducing recidivism, is give them safe, stable housing. You know, we do provide transitional housing up to a year, but after a year, they got to get out. It's not permanent housing, and some of them like to stay in our program because it's like, man, I'm really safe here. I like it here. You guys are helping me. I'm doing well. I'm saving up my money. And I'm like, okay, it's 12 months. You got to go. But we don't just do that, because early on, we're helping them build a plan. Like, I'm saving my money up because I'm going to get an apartment. I'm going to get a vehicle before then that I can get a better job, or I can travel a little further, make a little bit more money. And we do help them find stable employment. We have an employment enhancement program. It consists of a team of 5 that help these men and women get jobs and maintain those jobs and keep those jobs so they have that income to pay the bills, to pay their parole fees. And we also encourage strong social bonds. And I tell all the guys that's coming through, you know, my job is ministry in itself, because I'm always telling them, hey, if you're not in a church, you need to get in one. If you're not a believer, then now's probably a good time to get down on them knees and ask God for some help. Because some of them don't have anybody, they don't know anybody, and all they know is what they did in prison. So our program actually begins before they even leave. We go, we identify prospective clients that may not have anybody, but have been involved in rehabilitative programs on the inside. We go there and we interview them. We offer them a contract to sign so that we can provide these services when they return home. We develop this specific reentry plans for each individual, because they're all different. They're all from different places, and they might have different talents and skills. And we work with their family and the reentry partners before they come home. We're talking to them like, hey, this guy's changed. He's not the same person he was before. He hasn't had to turn off the lights or the water in 40 years. You know, hasn't had to cook a meal. All he's got to do is go to the chow hall. Hasn't had to wash his own laundry in 40 years. So all these things he's got to learn how to do all over again. And sometimes even family members say, hey, you can't stay with us anymore because you're making a mess, you're not cleaning up, you're not doing this, and we don't like the way you're doing this. So like, y'all have to go back to Parole Project. And you know, we've had that happen. We've accepted them back and tried to find them a better place to stay that's more conducive to their futures. And advocacy when necessary. For some people, they do need legal advice. We do have staff attorneys that work with us. When they come home, the first 4 weeks, they're in class from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. It's priority number 1. They have to go through an intensive reintegration program, and these are some of the classes that they have to learn. Avoiding scams, because some of our clients believe that they were randomly selected to win $1,000 in this random text message that they received, and that you know, they need to provide their personal information to get the prize. We show them how to build credit. We help them get a bank account. We get a debit card for them. We sign them up for Medicaid or Medicare if they're eligible, and we teach them how to navigate through the healthcare system. We do have a social work staff. It's brand new. Right now, we just got a grant to start a social work department. And so the guys don't like talking to men like me and other case managers, but they'll talk to the women, the social workers, and tell them everything. And so that's a good thing because they're on our side. They're saying, hey, we need to work with this guy. You know, they're not violating any laws. They're not breaking any rules of being social workers, but they're sharing with us some of the needs and some of the potential pitfalls of our clients. So, like I said, with technologically literacy, there's 4 classes. We teach them how to Google, how to text, how to email, how to fill out job applications online, how to do everything on your phone, make money transfers, and you know, like I said, we take them to the store, Walmart, first day out, and show them how to use the debit card, self-checkout. Family and community reintegration, we make sure that it is a positive environment that they're going to if they have family that they're going to go back to. So if somebody's family's involved in drugs and in criminal activities, we don't want them to go back there. We want a fresh start somewhere else that's going to be positive and encouraging. We do have professionals. We have retired professionals that come in and serve as volunteers. They teach classes for us. Some of them do all these things for us. You know, retired teachers. We have a retired law enforcement man comes and teaches us how to interact with law enforcement while being on parole. You know, we do show them employment skills and workplace etiquettes because some of them never had a job before. Some of them never started up a lawnmower in their life. And so we teach them how you got to act when you're going for a job, how to dress, you know, get a fresh haircut, put on a little cologne, introduce yourself, you know, be courteous, yes sir, no sir, yes ma'am, no ma'am. Now, some of them never had to do that before, and so we're just showing them a new way of living. These are some of the peer support classes we go, and these have come to be because some of our clients had, like myself, had some real roadblocks that we ran into. And so we share with them some of our struggles, and we relate that to the men and women coming out so that they don't have those same struggles. They can learn from our mistakes, or they can learn from some of our roadblocks that we ran into and how to avoid them or move around them. Reentry services provided. I talked about some of these things. One of them in particular is the volunteerism. We do, you know, really encourage them to volunteer and get involved in community service projects. It's kind of one of my jobs. So if any of y'all need any help, if y'all have any, you know, groups that you need someone to come talk to and share our experiences with the criminal justice system, with the Department of Corrections, or with the reentry, you know, you have my email address. I'm just a few texts away, and we're glad to come help y'all, because that's what we do. We give back, and we're trying to instill these qualities into our clients and have them giving back in whatever community they return to. Like I said, we do have 9 transitional houses. We now have 30. We just closed on another 1-bedroom apartment over by Brightside in Charlotte. The 9 transitional houses, they can stay with us up to a year in that. Some of them have 3 or 4 occupants that share common areas. They may even share a bedroom together or a bathroom. But in our program, everybody gets along. If you didn't like the guy in prison, too bad. You're going to like him now, because if y'all can't get along in our program, you got to go. You know, we don't want to kick you out, but we will. And so sometimes you got to be stern with these guys because they're tough. But once they're around people like y'all, oh man, it's like little teddy bears, because they know y'all care for them, and they're looking for somebody to befriend. We do have these new programs, Restoration Project. We're buying some blighted houses. Our clients have all kinds of skills and abilities. We're renovating these houses. Now some of these houses that we bought are the nicest houses on the block, over there past Choctaw and Chippewa, all the way back there by Exxon. And you know, the whole point is that maybe these men or women can take on a note and buy these houses, and then we can take the money that purchase these houses from us and buy another blighted house from the parish. Employment enhancement program is our job seeking program where we're trying to find them work and stable work for the guys that have skills coming out. They're going straight in skilled labor jobs, earning skilled labor pay. Reentry healthcare initiative. This is our mental health department that we're just starting now. It's very important, very vital for our guys, men and women who have a lot of anxiety and concerns and worries when they're released. The impacted leadership initiative we just started this year. So some of the men and women who have skills and have abilities, we are pairing them up with other organizations throughout the country. We're letting them travel to go and shadow somebody that's in a similar position that they might be working in or they about to go to work in. And so they're learning that experience, but they're also making a network of friends and contacts throughout the country. And Frederick Douglass Project, this is what I'll close on. I facilitate this. It is prison visits. It's not prison ministry, and it's not a faith-based group, but every time we've had these visits, it's been a spiritual awakening for everybody. And I love doing it because it recharges my spiritual batteries. And some of these guys live in cell blocks that they don't get to see anybody. It's just closed cells. Nobody visits them very often. The only time is for count and maybe getting meals or medication. The rest of the guys are big open dorms. It's like a warehouse with 5 rows of 15 beds. They can come and go to these activities as they please. I said, but Frederick Douglass, they have like 10 men or women because we do go to 3 facilities. And all you have to do is show up. Fill out 3 forms that Brother Jorge just showed us on the screen. You can get them to me or you can mail them into the prison. And once you're cleared for that, you can go in. They do take a tour of Hunt. They walk into a dorm so you see how the beds are, you see how the bathrooms are. You talk to some guys that live there. Then we go to the chapel where we have group discussions, which are facilitator-led. Myself and Christy Sheremy, my work partner, we usually facilitate these programs. And you talk to men there and you talk to some of the women there for 2 hours, conversation. And you realize that they're just normal people, just like you. They could be your neighbors. They could be living beside you and not even know it. They're just human beings. And that's the whole point of the visits, is to discover the humanity. There's no commitment there. It's usually a one-time experience. And I guarantee you, if you go in and you talk with these men or these women during one of these Frederick Douglass visits, that you will be moved and you will be changed. And hopefully you'll sign up for one of these prison ministries with these deacons, and you can go in and help with OCIA. You don't have to be a certified catechist to do so. Just somebody that cares, somebody that can read with them, pray with them, share with them, and really make a difference in their life.
Just want to say a few words of encouragement and just a couple of experiences real quick that I've had in doing prison ministry since I arrived. When I arrived here, I found out that I had Manresa, one of the most, and maybe the best, most successful retreat houses of Jesuits in the country, and I had Angola, one of the somewhat more infamous, at least for some part of its history, prison. And I found that Manresa was everything they said it was, and Angola was very little of what they said it was. In fact, something quite opposite when I got there. Just a couple of vignettes I have. One of the first person I met when I went out there was Big Lou. And Big Lou was a tall guy. He had committed a crime when he was young. It was a drug deal gone bad, and things happened that he never intended, but did happen, and he was sent to prison. He was probably the most trusted trustee in all of Angola. He carried a phone. He did the guest house. When you went out there, you met him first, usually. He cooked me fish, and he was supposed to take me fishing out at Angola, but they have lakes out there to fish on. But COVID hit, and I never got back out there to fish. I had some of his hot sauce and fig preserves, and when he got out, he was helping so many people, but a great guy, and someone that I began to learn about the course of a man's life after so many years, how they just changed so drastically. Really what happened was the real man he would have been in real life finally came out over the crime he had committed and was showing what he would have been in his real life, now freed and have all the benefits of Angola. And I'm sure you've gone over those things, I guess, new men, those kind of things. There's so many things. My other vignette I have is we have a server that serves for me, and he has a tattoo on his face, okay? What is it, the devil? Is it? Yeah, okay. Well, this guy, evidently, when he came to prison, was one of the most feared inmates. He was a gang member, I guess. I don't know what the whole story was on him, but he's on the parish council. He serves, and is just the nicest guy. I mean, he really is a really great guy, and they have parish council. I mean, it's just an amazing place in that regard. I also have a beautiful, we should have wore today, my Angola cross, which is made out of the keys, the old-fashioned keys for the cells. They still use them, actually, big keys. The backs, the tops of the keys, the rounded parts are the cross with a picture of Jesus in the middle, beautifully made, all made out there by the craftsmen and the prisoners. And on the back is the inscription, "Today you will be with me in paradise." Jesus' words to the good thief on the cross. I can't tell you how my life has changed. And there's the point. It's changed because our system oftentimes, and we see it going on right now with the immigrant community. We see it's something that's been going on all our lives in different forms. The demonizing of a certain person, group of people, and suddenly they're all criminals, or they're all this way, they're all that way. When it comes down to it, every one of those men at Angola and Dixon, all the different places, are human beings. They had lives, they committed crimes, and now they're in prison, but they're still God's children. And still good things can come out of them if we allow them the time and allow God's grace to work with them. And one of the ways God's grace works is because we surround people with love and concern, and we have to sometimes mirror that respect so they can respect themselves as well. One of the touching moments I've come on is when I visit death row, which is going to be a different visit this year, because all the times I've been visiting, they've not been executing prisoners. And it may be very real that when I go there in the spring, they will have had one or two of them executed by then. I hope not, but it looks like that's happening. But I remember one time I went to one of the cells and I was talking to him. I said, "Please pray for me." He goes, and I said, "Do you want me to pray for you?" He goes, "No, pray for the victims of my crime. Pray for them." I thought that was a kind of a touching way in which he's kind of coming to grips with what he did. But it's a place of conversion if we continue to see every person as a human being. And I think that's what this ministry is all about. It's taking the effort to go, as Jesus said, to visit the imprisoned. By going to visit with them, you connect them back with the community, the family of mankind, in a sense. You give them that place. And people will say they don't deserve it. And that just goes against everything that Jesus says. When people tell me, what about the death penalty? There's all kinds of scripture passages. Yeah, you can find them in the Old Testament. Go to the New Testament and tell me where Jesus says anything about that. He's always about visit the sick, visit the prisoner, welcome the stranger, draw people in. We do that because we are to be Christ for others. And right that moment, you are Christ for that person. And it's amazing, just the smile on their face. They watch me on TV. They say, "Oh, we saw you on TV last week. We saw you on TV." I'm like one of their friends out here, because I'm a connection. I'm some little connection for some, but I'm a connection. And you can be that in this ministry. It's a little bit demanding. It takes some special care, and you have to be attentive to what you do. But when you work with the prison system, and Angola is not the infamous place it was at one time. It has a lot of positive energy going on. Now, there are some places that are still everything you probably imagine a prison to be, but you have a chance, if you want, to move from there to something much more civilized and much more wholesome, even life-giving, even within the prison, spiritually life-giving. And we're part of that team that goes out there. And so I appreciate all that you're doing. You represent the church. You represent Christ to these people, young men, these men and women. And I want you to know I appreciate you being here today, and I hope you can find your place in this system of ministry so that you can, whether it be here or on the outside, like you said, receiving people coming out of the prisons or going to visit. I hope that you will be a help to all we do. Actually, one of our new ministries in town, Vagabond Ministries, that works over at Sacred Heart, are a group of people who have dedicated their lives, taken some time off, and they are going out into the neighborhood there around Sacred Heart and getting the young people who after school oftentimes don't have anything to do, bringing them to the parish and having like a little youth group there, a place for them to gather, a place for them to come to know, have a safe place sometimes, or even hopefully we continue to evangelize them as well and bring them back into a relationship with God as well. And so that's keeping them out of prison. And and so all these ministries I think are just an exciting part of the diocese. And so thank you for being here tonight, and thank you all of our chaplains who stand in the front lines and do that work. You're a great gift to the diocese, and you keep things going. So thank you. But they're not young chickens, but they're wise roosters over here, But we got to have that team of people that replenishes the new for the old. So thank you very much. I'm going to stop.
He has served as pastor at Holy Rosary Church in San Juan, here at St. George. He was responsible for the fundraising and capital campaign for this building. And he was also pastor at St. John, Pineda. Well, the Tom has been the diocesan director of worship and master of ceremonies in our diocese since the early 1980s. He has served on boards of directors of the Federation of Diocesan Liturgical Commissions and the National Forum on the Catechism. He has also served as a consultant to the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops Committee of Divine Worship. He has also given more liturgy workshops and training sessions for lay ministers than McDonald's has sold hamburgers. Now retired from parish ministry, while the Tom continues to direct diocesan, is the director of the Diocesan Office of Liturgy, and volunteers his time to assist parishes, nursing homes, and prisons. And for me, the most important tag that I think I can tell him all the time is that I consider him a dear, close, personal friend. And for that, I'd like to welcome Father Tom Ranzino.
Thank you, Jay. Good morning, everybody. I had been celebrating the Eucharist at Hunt's, Angola, and LCIW long before I made the decision to retire from pastoring St. Jean Vianney Parish. It was very clear to me that I was going to continue to offer myself for the prison ministry, as I considered the men and women who were incarcerated to be one of my little flocks. As a retired pastor, and I'm not a retired priest, but I'm a retired pastor, I no longer have one large flock, but I have lots of smaller flocks who are as important to me now as was the one large flock I used to call my parish ever was. While visiting one of the prisons in the diocese one day, I met a man named Cody. Cody was a kind man with a wide, easy smile. Actually, he was fully initiated while he was in prison, and he now serves with the chaplains and volunteers in one of the local Catholic prison communities. Cody told me that he was proud to share with his family that he had become Catholic and how much it meant to him to be part of the Catholic community while in prison. And he ended his conversation with me by saying, you know, with 2 life sentences, I won't be able to make it home again. So my family knows that I'm praying for them until the day the Lord calls me home. Unless a person, him or herself, or a loved one is convicted of a felony, it's unlikely that that person, he or she, will ever spend time inside a prison. The incarcerated are usually placed away from the public eye, and they're behind high fences for security. These people are removed from other people's sight and too often from the hearts and minds of the folks who are free. That condition is not a real problem for the free world. Society prefers distance from the imprisoned. And our prison ministry matters because the way of Jesus is a different way of relating to the incarcerated. And you've heard that all morning long. There are several reasons why caring for the incarcerated is a gift. Jesus tells us that when we care for prisoners, we're caring for him. It's one of the few places in Scripture where he identifies with a group. Believing prisoners are part of his one body. As you know, this question has come up many times this morning. When did we see you in prison and visit you? And Jesus answered, if you did it for one of those brothers or sisters in prison, you did it for me. Now, the early Christian church often heard the encouragement to remember people in prison. But they heard it in a very different way than we do. The original recipients in the early church of this word, remember those in prison, would have heard this as a call to care for Christians unjustly imprisoned for their faith. However, that's not how we hear it today. And these facts should not limit our compassion. How do we know which of these in prison are brothers or sisters if we don't first encounter them and come to know their faith? You might think that the visits you make to prison cells is primarily about bringing Holy Communion to them in the cells. In my experience, that primary movement is encountering Christ through your presence first. Holy Communion may or may not be given to a person in prison. But if communion is not given, they have received in the body and blood through you. And so that is not a failed visit. A communion happened, and Christ was met through your person as a disciple of Christ. We share in a wide mission field in the prison system. As some of you already know, U.S. jail and prison systems are home to nearly 1% of all working age Americans. For every 20 families of 5 sitting down for dinner in our neighborhoods, one family is experiencing an empty chair. Caring for the imprisoned is an opportunity to evangelize prisoners who've lost faith in God or who've lost hope for their futures. And at the same time, witness the gospel to those very imprisoned people's loved ones. It's not only about the imprisoned, it's about their families. No one is disqualified from God's mercy. Mercy starts with God through the church. Be merciful as your Father is merciful. Over the course of time, when you are visiting and praying with the imprisoned, you come to realize that many of these people who have become brothers and sisters have done so while in prison. So when the Lord returns, we're going to sit side by side with them at the banquet of the Lamb. Concrete walls and barbed wire cannot keep Christians from encouraging one another with this future reality. Our futures are bound together. In our culture today, many Christians don't believe what I just said. Our futures are bound together. Most of the world goes along unconcerned about the imprisoned. The relative hopelessness of long imprisonments urges Christians to encourage our little flocks and to look with them toward our final and our future redemption. Christians believe there is a future redemption. Most prisons prohibit cameras, cell phones, and all that kind of digital stuff. So prisoners cannot update their social media to tell the world about you or your good deeds. I think that's perfectly fine, because it's just this kind of quiet faithfulness the Lord has called us to witness. In a ministry to the incarcerated, you're serving in an ecclesial ministry. You're doing a church ministry. It's not your ministry. At times, some of you are offering spontaneous prayers with the incarcerated. Some of you are doing petitions with intercessions or litanies of praise of God. At other times, some of you are presenting the official liturgical prayer of the church, found in one of the ritual or more than one of the ritual texts the church uses to worship. But either way, whether you are using the ritual text or you are doing spontaneous prayer, you are an ecclesial minister, serving the inmates, serving through the church, serving Christ. I use the word ritual books of the church. I'm not going to give you a class in liturgy, but I want to just show you what those books are and where some of the prayers you use come from. So here are some of them. This is called Holy Communion and Worship of the Eucharistic Mystery Outside of Mass. It's got this horrible, long, we call it hiquimam. Literally, hiquimam. It's just been recently retranslated. If you look in your packet, there is a laminated prayer. If you are bringing communion to the sick, to those imprisoned, this is what you're supposed to do. Use this prayer. This comes from this. Holy Communion and worship of the Eucharistic mystery outside of Mass. There's a lot more than bringing communion to those who cannot come to you in this book. But this is approved for use. If you look on the back, you notice that there are notes. It tells you it comes from hiquimam. It also tells you that you can find other optional formulas for the prayers or readings that are listed on this laminated sheet from this book. It also tells you finally that if you're not offering communion, there's another closing prayer that you can use that doesn't make reference to the fact that we just had communion. So in case you're wondering, what do I do if I bring communion to those in prison and it's not a Sunday, you do this. The second book I want to show you. It's called Sunday Celebrations in the Absence of a Priest. SCAP. You who go to prisons possibly on a Sunday and there's no priest available for Mass, need to do what's in this book. Later, I'm going to be offering a training for those who might need that. This can be done in a prison. So for instance, if your Sunday celebration is on a Friday, and Father Brown can't make it because he's stuck in traffic on Bluebonnet, this is really what should be done. Not this. This is for daily Mass, daily communion on a cell block, or even in a chapel. If you don't have a priest or a priest available, this is what's done on a Sunday. Again, I'm going to be offering training about this for Sunday worship if it's needed for any of you, and that'll be coming. George will let you know when that's going to happen. The other book that's very helpful is called the Book of Blessings. If you want to bless anything, from holy water to a grave, this book can be very helpful. Laymen and women can use this book. It's called the Book of Blessings because that's all it is. One blessing after the other. People, places, facilities, times of the season. It's helpful to have. Your prison chaplaincies should have one. If there are any chaplaincies that are here that you don't have one, the Office of Worship will provide it for you. Just let me know. As you know, some of you use this all the time. It's called the lectionary. It's the book of the readings of all the church uses for all the celebrations of the year. There's a Sunday lectionary which has the scriptures for Mass on a Sunday, cycle ABC. 1 volume or 3 books. There's a weekday lectionary, volumes 1 and 2. I know this sounds confusing. Even years and odd years. But this has 2 books, and it's for the daily readings all during the year. That's where those readings come from if you go to daily Mass, right out of here. This third, I would call it a 4th volume, is used when we celebrate sacraments. Confirmation, baptism, marriage, etc. And then we have the Roman Missal. It's the big red book the priest uses for Mass. All the prayers for Mass are in there, no matter what Mass we're doing. Why am I telling you all this? Because you're not going to manipulate any of these books. It's because I want you to understand that you're doing ecclesial ministry. You're not making things up when you act officially at worship. Some of you will assist the priests who offer Mass at institutions. You'll get in touch with the Sunday lectionary and the prayers for Mass from that Roman Missal. Some of you will do Sunday Mass on a Friday, even though it's not a Sunday, because that's all you can do in your prison. A few of you may also take part in the daily weekday Mass at a prison. And if so, you'll be using the weekday lectionary or the Roman Missal. Some of you even go to accompany the priest when he anoints someone. There's a ritual for that. called pastoral care of the sick. Again, you won't use this, the priest will, but you need to understand where the priest or the deacon gets most of what they put together and say, we're going to pray now. Sometimes the liturgical prayer, the public prayer, worship, is in the form of an order or service, found in one of the ritual books of the church. This means a number of things. Number one, first, that the ritual prayer found in these books is the official prayer of the church. It's where the church speaks one language, one voice at the time. Secondly, if you're using those kinds of prayers, like the ones I showed you on the laminated sheet, it's not a private moment between you and the inmate, even if it's just the two of you. We believe the whole church is praying with you at that moment, even if there are only two of you doing the prayers. Number three, the ritual prayer reflects the mind and belief of the church. So the words express what we are believing as Catholics. And number four, you didn't make the prayer up. You have an option or an alternative wording to choose from, meaning the text might say this or in other words, or there are other options. You didn't make up the prayer that you're saying, and there may be other ways of saying it. But usually the ritual books give you lots of options to choose from based on the circumstance that you're facing. Someone's dying. Someone needs communion. Someone needs intercession. Someone needs to hear the gospel. Again, I say these things that sound a bit technical only because I want you to know where our prayer that many of you are going to use come from. In the official prayer of the church, the liturgy, the public prayer of the church, it will provide a structure, words, and gestures that refer to many varieties of occasions, situations, and people involved. Sometimes the priest or deacon will stretch out their hand. It's not because they're trying to do a salute. It's because it's being given in the text as something to do, an expression of human form, human touch to another. If you happen to be a person who is going to serve as a Eucharistic minister, or what we call an extraordinary minister of Holy Communion. Extraordinary because the ordinary minister of Holy Communion is a priest or a deacon. The extraordinary minister is someone not a priest or a deacon. If you bring Holy Communion to the incarcerated, you must be trained at the diobr.org website, which offers an extraordinary minister of Holy Communion training video. Jorge gave you that link. I'm giving it to you again. If you are bringing communion to the incarcerated, even if you don't serve in your parish, but only to prisons, you must be trained with the video training that's on that site. Jorge and I and Steve Lee are going to put together an additional video very shortly that will be targeted just to those who go to prisons. That video will, again, show you this is what you are to do when you visit the cell blocks or in any other place in a prison. So that's coming very shortly. Jorge will let you know when it's ready. It'll be on our diocesan website. What are the diocesan guidelines for extraordinary ministers of Holy Communion? If you look in your blue folder, they're right here. If you are going to be a minister who brings communion to those in prison, these are the guidelines that are applicable for the Diocese of Baton Rouge. It's part of the training that we offer. It simply tells you what this ministry is for and who can do it. So please be aware that this is also printed on our diocesan website. It was revised as of this year, so it's up to date. And now you have a copy of it. It's the basic protocols. I want to talk about the cell visit. Some of you are not participating in the public prayer of the church with a liturgical assembly, meaning in the chapel. But rather your ministry is to go from cell to cell, and you offer the visit. It is part of the worship of the church that what you are doing, again, is not being made up. It's part of the way the church prays. In general, this kind of a visit is a combination of holy listening, liturgical prayer, spontaneous prayer, heartfelt sentiment, quick thinking, discerning the reality, and trusting God as you discern what's going on here at this moment. And you may or you may not offer Holy Communion. When you do a visit to a cell, all of that's going on, not necessarily in that order. I suggest you identify yourself first. Hello, my name is Tom Ranzino. I'm from Baton Rouge. I belong to St. George Parish. How are you? Use the answer you get from the inmate to go with the conversation. In other words, listen to what the inmate's going to say, and then you reply to the inmate. So if you think, and I'm not saying this in any kind of derogatory way, if you think there's a speech you have to say all the time, you don't. You're going to go with the flow. Reply to the person who's speaking to you. Identify yourself, where you're from, and then use the answer you get with the inmate to go on with the conversation. Now, I know in saying that, I think I'm scaring a lot of you about that. You're saying, I'm not going to know what to say. What if I don't have anything to say? Ask him about the Saints or LSU. Truly. Do you like to fish? I'm a bird watcher. You ever watch birds? You're building a level of human trust that can open the person to a deeper conversation. Another way to deepen that trust is be consistent with the ones you visit. In other words, if you can, go see the same folks all the time. That's how you build a consistent relationship. And they know they can learn you're coming. Persistence counts. And when you are finished with the visit, use the J. Jackson check on how the visit went. Do you know the color of the inmate's eyes? On a cell visit or a sickbed visit, even if that person is not receiving Holy Communion for any reason, the value of the prayer companionship, human companionship and compassion, showing the interest of the church and the love of Christ, is sustained and infers a real communion of some kind can and does occur on that visit. You are not allowed to announce to everybody on the block as you begin, hey guys, listen up. I have Holy Communion for everyone on the block. Nope, you really can't say that. You are not to dismiss people at large or individually by saying, you're not Catholic, so I'm not going to visit you today. Or, no one on this block is worthy to receive Holy Communion. Goodbye. Converse with the one with whom you visit. Hello, my name is Tom Ranzino. You're from where? I'm from St. George. I'm from St. Jean-Vianney. I'm from Most Blessed Sacrament. I'm from Sacred Heart. Give them a sense of where you're from religiously, not only what city you're from. I'm from the Catholic chaplaincy. How you doing today? You represent the church. Again, I say this really carefully. You don't own your own ministry. Your ministry is more expansive than you might think. Your ministry is to help the incarcerated encounter Christ through what you have been delegated to do. Your ministry is not only or not solely about bringing Holy Communion to the incarcerated. You may not do that at all. You are evangelizing by engaging in conversation, picking up pieces of the prisoner's story, and listening with respect. If you do have communion to offer, you're listening from some sense of the person having faith in Jesus Christ. A note about that. The interesting thing about this ritual book, Sunday Celebrations in the Absence of a Priest, is that it is given in two forms, meaning Father Brown didn't show up. What are we going to do? We're going to do this service. One of the forms says you can do this service and give Holy Communion. But the other form, curiously, allows the church to gather, to pray with the scriptures, to do the parts that are given in the ritual, but no Holy Communion is given. So the church is acknowledging, even if you can't give communion, give your all, give yourself, become Christ for the ones you serve. Here's what you want to be listening for when you think about, should so-and-so be going to communion? Does he or she have a willingness to pray? Does he or she have a belief that this bread is more than ordinary bread, but is the body and blood of Christ? Is there an awareness on his or her part for the need for God's mercy? The reason for your visit goes beyond giving Holy Communion, but also by giving compassion, prayer, love, respect, support, and encouragement. The prisoner is able to meet Christ in the name of the church. Holy Communion may or may not be given, but the visit is still filled with the presence of Christ. It comes directly from Sunday celebrations in the absence of a priest. In the same way you don't own your ministry, you also don't own the Eucharist. So don't be arrogant in either direction. Don't be arrogant in refusing Holy Communion, or arrogant in ignoring the legitimate ways the church understands what Holy Communion means. Take your time. Listen with compassion to what's being unfolded before you. Take your time. Who can receive Holy Communion? These are the three qualifications we are told by the church. The basic principles are that one should be a Catholic in the state of grace and properly prepared to receive the Eucharist. Receiving the Eucharist is not a basic rite for inmates, but rather follows the norms of the Catholic Church. The warden doesn't make that decision. The state of Louisiana does not make that decision. An extraordinary minister of Holy Communion should not refuse the sacrament to an inmate who attends a communion service or is praying with the minister on the cell block who asks for communion and comes forward if the Eucharistic minister has duly expressed in his invitation the solemnity and meaning of the Eucharist. The Church presumes that those who receive the Eucharist approach it in good faith and are properly disposed. I think we have to be prudent and be careful not to offend. Periodically, when people are not in the communion line, when they're not in the communion line, it can be helpful to explain to the prisoners what the church really believes about Holy Communion. That kind of formation can be done in a number of ways. Notice I said not at the communion moment, but outside the communion line. It can be done in a private conversation with that inmate. It can be part of the general formation offered the participants and the religious education and formation in Catholic ministry. It can be done during the etiquette that is occasionally given to those who come together to worship. Here's what we believe. Here's how we do communion. This is what it means. Remember, even the communion line allows for a person to come up for a blessing or a short prayer if a person says, I'm not receiving today, or I can't receive. Just keep in mind, some prisoners can come regularly to the service. They'll get to know the etiquette and rules by coming every week. But some cannot come or will not come regularly because that availability may not be in their control. Can you ask someone, are you a Catholic? Yes, you can. Are you a Catholic? But I wouldn't start with that question as the first thing that comes out of your mouth when you say, my name is Tom Ranzino and I'm from St. Jean Vianney. Talk to the person. Come to know their faith story. Befriend. Offer hope. Go slow. Your ministry is visiting the incarcerated in the name of Christ, and you are to be Christ-like to them. You don't want to crush the spirit. I am not saying offering Holy Communion is not important to the incarcerated, or is not a unique offering of the Catholic Church. What I am saying is that sometimes it may be appropriate to offer Holy Communion to a person you meet in prison, and sometimes not. I would advise you not to use the communion procession rite to be the catechetical moment for teaching. If in doubt, I would trust the goodwill of the person who desires to receive. And again, I say this with all humility and respect. Jesus can take care of himself, and does. And I think it would be good to trust the desire of the church to nourish the poorest of the poor. But if you are in a quandary about that, you can talk with the person about what the church really believes Holy Communion to mean. What are you learning that is important? And you can always talk to your priest or deacon chaplain if you don't know what to do. Go slow. I would like to know what I said made sense, or what did I say that really got you riled up to say, no, I don't believe that? Or what did I say that didn't make any sense and you want to say, I don't understand what you meant by that? So what do you want to affirm? What do you want to question? Or what do you want to go deeper in? Yes, ma'am.
I think what resonated with me, I am an extraordinary minister.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm struggling with how I know they're a Catholic. You know, how whether you give it to someone who's not a Catholic, if you do a beautiful job of kind of alleviating that angst. So thank you.
Yeah, I would really like to give you a sense of taking the pressure off about that. You're doing an ecclesial ministry, but you're making a decision that every priest or deacon has to make in the communion line every Sunday. I don't know some of the people that come to communion. I'm trusting that they know what they're doing and what they're there for. I believe God trusts that too. But if I'm not sure, I'll find a time to talk to the person and say, what's your story? Thank you. What did I say made sense? What did I say didn't make sense? Yeah, Bernie.
So, Father, I think that your presentation with that cell visit is amazing. You really struck a chord.
Okay.
Did that a while, and every piece of advice you gave was perfect.
Thank you.
This is that. You use yourself as that connection. Just the eye contact and the smile has more effect than I could have possibly imagined. So thank you.
You're welcome, Bernie. Thank you. You know, listening, especially to Matt, about how many of the smaller moments helped his heart open to God, really struck me as decisive that there really are no small moments. They're moments of grace that abound throughout the whole time you're visiting the cell and praying with them in the chapel. You just never know what the Lord's going to do at that moment. Again, what didn't make sense? What are you questioning? What do you want to know more about? Okay. Remember our website, the Office of Worship, under that, liturgical resources. There, by the way, there are video trainings for lectors, ushers, servers, communion ministers that you can use on your computer and show. You can use as much or as little as possible. And I want to thank Steve Lee for providing that expertise in helping us put those together. I really appreciate being with you, and I thank you for your service. It always inspires me to continue. God bless.